JBN, we keep you informed. Man and woman shot dead on Wedcombe Avenue, close to Grand Span. A man and a woman were shot dead during a brazen early morning attack carried out by gunmen along Wedcombe Avenue, an area located close to the Grand Span community, on Saturday. The victims have not yet been identified. Reports are that about 3:30 a.m., the two persons were walking along the mentioned road when a car drove up and the passengers accosted them. Residents from the area said soon after gunshots were heard. Me hear the shots, the man jump up out of my bed. We call the police and go look to see if we know them, but we don't know them because them don't live here, said one woman. She was one of several persons who gathered close to the scene of the crime as investigators scoured the area for clues. Other residents from the normally quiet community could be heard whispering among themselves. Police said that the man was shot once under his left armpit, while the woman was shot 4 times in her upper body, including her face. As the police carried out their checks, one resident could be heard complaining that in recent times there have been a series of robberies taking place in the community. The gunman them take a set round here since the other day, the resident said. Police report that both victims were traveling with bags containing clothing and other personal effects. Homicide detectives from the St. Andrew North Police Division are investigating. JPS contractor argues self-defense in fatal shooting of customer. 42-year-old Jamaica Public Service contractor Deverton Miller will return to court on July 26, 2019 to face a charge of murder in the Savlamar Parish Court. Miller had been charged following a ruling from the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution. The charge stems from the fatal shooting of a man in circumstances where Miller was in the process of removing an illegal electricity connection on the man's premises in Opal, Hanover on April 30, 2018. Miller is presently on bail as his attorney Peter Champagne had been able to convince the presiding judge to take into account that following the recent ruling of the DPP, his client had quickly and voluntarily submitted himself into the custody of the police. Champagne is convinced that his client will be exonerated. There is clear evidence to suggest that the accused acted in self-defense, and indeed his conduct after the incident is consistent with someone who was able to exercise mature judgment, Champagne said. He went to the police, made a report, submitted a written statement, and continued to follow up with the case to the extent that when it was ruled that he would be charged, he immediately made himself available to the police, Champagne added. According to court documents, Miller was part of a JPS crew in the area when it is alleged that an argument developed between Miller and the deceased, during which Miller used his licensed firearm to shoot the deceased in the chest. Champagne also submitted that there were witnesses who said his client acted in self-defense when it appeared that the deceased was reaching for a weapon. Miller is set to return to court on July 26, 2019. 5 road deaths in less than 24 hours. 5 persons have died in motor vehicle crashes in Kingston and the St. Anne in the last 24 hours. 2 of the crashes were head-on collisions, according to reports. Police sources say 2 persons died yesterday morning when a minibus collided head-on with a Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC bus in Prairie St. Anne. The father and son have been identified as Elkito Mushet, 55, of Greater Portmore, and Sheldon Mushet, 29, of Spanish Town, both in St. Catherine. The younger Mushet had to be cut from the vehicle, according to witnesses. According to the police, they were killed when the Nissan panel van the elder Mushet was driving towards Kingston slammed into the Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC bus heading towards St. James. The accident happened shortly after 9 a.m. along the Richmond Main Road in the vicinity of the Royal Plantation Housing Scheme. The driver of the JUTC bus was treated at hospital along with 45 passengers, one of whom remained hospitalized in critical condition. Reports are that the JUTC bus was taking members of the Angel Assemblies of God in Spanish Town on a church trip. Investigators believe the Nissan panel van drifted into the path of the bus, causing the head-on collision. Somebody fell asleep, one investigator theorized. 2 men died Friday night after a motor car crashed head-on into a Knutsford Express bus along the Palisados Road in East Kingston, minutes after a female pedestrian was hit by a car along Mountain View Avenue. The latest fatalities have pushed the number of persons killed on the nation's roadways this year to 241, an increase of 24% when compared with the corresponding period last year. According to police reports, the Knutsford Express bus was traveling towards the Norman Mann International Airport when it collided head-on with a Nissan motor car heading in the opposite direction. The driver of the motor car and a male passenger were pronounced dead at hospital. In the second crash late Friday night, a female pedestrian was hit by an under motor car traveling south along Mountain View Avenue. DPP to rule on case involving cop involved in crash. The Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, is expected to rule next week whether charges are to be laid against a police constable now in custody in connection with a motor vehicle crash in Portmore, St. Catherine. The policeman was arrested last Friday following the mishap which claimed the life of Tyrese Williams, 13, on the Bernard Lodge Main Road in St. Catherine. Investigators reportedly submitted a file on the incident to the DPP earlier last week. It supported that the policeman was driving without a license and his private motor vehicle was not licensed or insured. Tyrese, who was reported hit by the vehicle, was pronounced dead at hospital. Ganja dispute results in teenager's death. A dispute over a quantity of ganja resulted in the stabbing death of a teenager in Burnt Ground, St. Elizabeth. The deceased man has been identified as 19-year-old Ross Wayne Cunningham of Burnt Ground. Reports are that sometime after 7 p.m. last Wednesday, a dispute developed among Cunningham and a group of men over ganja. The altercation escalated, and a knife was used to stab the teen several times. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. The St. Elizabeth police are probing the incident. Phillips and church leaders meet to discuss corruption and crime. Opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips met with church leaders to discuss alleged corruption in government on Wednesday, a day before his People's National Party staged its anti-corruption vigil in Halfway Tree against what it said was unparalleled corruption in the Holness administration. This was confirmed in a statement from the PMP on Friday. According to the statement, the meeting was called to address the deterioration of traditional moral values and norms which lay beneath the indiscipline and criminality threatening to overrun communities and the country. The group agreed that the nation and its central moral principles were being challenged at every level, and national dialogue is urgently needed in order to define possible remedial action, said Phillips. Additionally, the meeting explored a partnership which will seek to work with political and sector leaders with a clear view to contain the gross materialism which threatens to overrun the country, Phillips added. That partnership is a likely joint effort which will seek to provide a new approach to the education and re-socialization of the Jamaican people, as there is reportedly an agreement that the process of economic and social reconstruction should be at the top of the national agenda going forward. The PMP said the church leaders pledged their support to continue the dialogue while seeking to strengthen their programs where applicable to aid the process. Phillips said that church leaders also shared their own views on the matter and offered their suggestions for remedial action that would involve the church, schools, families, and the wider communities. Since the PMP's anti-corruption vigil, a war of words has erupted between the PMP and the governing Jamaica Labour Party JLP about which party is more corrupt. The JLP has gone as far as to utilize several electronic billboard advertisements, highlighting over 20 scandals that the PMP had been involved in over its more than 2 decades in government. The billboard, which hovers over Mandela Park in Halfway Tree, the same spot where the PMP held its protest on Thursday morning, highlights such scandals as the Shell waiver controversy, which dates back to the early 1990s and which led to the resignation of then Finance Minister, later Prime Minister P.J. Patterson, and PMP Cabinet Minister Horace Clark. Other advertisements read, "The most corrupt organization in the history of the Caribbean, and the PMP is the party of scandals." However, PMP Vice President Damien Crawford is sitting back. He said despite the claims by the JLP and their supporters that the PMP was also involved in the alleged thievery of public funds, nothing can compare to the level of alleged skullduggery that the present government has been accused of. There have been allegations against the PMP in the past, however none like this. I am standing as Damien Crawford and saying that if I was Minister of Education, this would never have happened, he said. That was a reference to the scandal at the Ministry of Education and some of its affiliated agencies, namely the Caribbean Maritime University and the National Education Trust, which led to the sacking of Senator Royal Reid as minister in March. Reid is now under a criminal probe. JBN, we keep you informed. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, leave us a comment, and click the notification bell to receive our daily news items.